In this video, we cover the following topics. Paintbrushes are a tool used for applying watercolor paints that often feature soft bristles that can hold a significant amount of water and pigment for creating fluid, transparent washes on paper. Here's a comparison of natural bristles and synthetic bristles. There are quite a few differences between the two that may present areas for consideration when selecting brushes for purchase or use. Please pause to read. Let's look at the various parts of a paintbrush. There's the tip, the belly, the bristles, and the ferrule or metal part of the brush. The handle is the part of the brush generally held in the hand, and the butt is the end opposite the tip. Now, let's zoom in and look inside the tip area of the brush. Where the bristles are glued with adhesive and connect to the handle is called the heel. The location where the ferrule is pinched or attached to the handle is known as the crimp. Now let's take a peek at some of the available types of paintbrush tip shapes. There's all kinds of brushes. We have round and flat, filbert and rigger, quill and fan, angled and dagger, as well as detail and hake. There isn't a consensus about brush sizes, but most brands have various sized brushes from small to large that are numbered. Smaller numbers are generally smaller tip sizes, whereas larger numbers usually represent larger brush tip sizes. Pro tip: don't worry about conventional sizing. A few brush shapes in a few sizes should be sufficient to begin painting. Let's talk about why the initial brush rinse is essential. When you purchase a new paintbrush, the first thing you should do before using it is rinse it thoroughly. Manufacturers often use sizing, a water-soluble adhesive, to shape and protect the bristles during storage and transit. This sizing ensures the brush maintains its intended shape, but it can interfere with the performance of the brush if not removed. A proper initial rinse dissolves the sizing, preparing the bristles for their full flexibility and responsiveness. Let's cover how to rinse your brush properly. To begin, gently swirl the brush in clean, lukewarm water. Avoid using hot water, as it can weaken the glue holding the bristles or damage synthetic fibers. Swirl the brush in a circular motion to encourage the release of the sizing while ensuring the bristles are not bent or pressed too hard. Rinse until the water runs clear and the bristles feel soft and pliable when touched. After rinsing, gently shape the bristles back into their original form with your fingers. This ensures the brush dries correctly and retains its intended shape for precise application. Priming a paintbrush is an essential first step in preparing it for painting. To prime your brush, dip it into clean water and gently swirl it to ensure the bristles are thoroughly saturated. This helps the brush absorb paint evenly and prevents dry, stiff bristles from dragging across the paper. After priming, lightly blot the brush on a cloth or paper towel to remove excess water. Capillary action or capillarity is a fundamental principle behind many of the behaviors and techniques in watercolor painting. At its core, capillary action is the ability of a liquid, like water, to flow in narrow spaces without the assistance of external forces, often against gravity. This phenomenon is prominently seen when watercolor paint is applied to paper or when a brush is dipped into paint. The bristles of a brush, due to their fine structure and porous nature, draw up the water and pigment mixture, allowing artists to pick up and distribute the paint. Wicking is a term that means to absorb. In watercolor, this usually comes with the additional connotation of away from. When water is absorbed vertically into the hairs of the paintbrush, this gravity-defying behavior is referred to as wicking. This concept is used to create an absorbent brush, often called an absorbent brush or thirsty brush, by many watercolorists. This useful behavior of drinking up the water effectively helps absorb areas of excess liquid on the paper to prevent backruns and remove wet media from tape to prevent seepage. Travel paintbrushes are excellent tools for plein air painting and painting on the go. To open, pull on the brush located inside the handle. Then place the back end of the brush side into the handle to lengthen the paintbrush for easy use. To close the travel brush after use, pull on the metal area above the brush to remove the brush from the handle. Dry the brush on absorbent paper before storing the tip inside of the handle for travel. The water brush is a brush featuring a tank that can be filled with water located above the bristles that conveniently dispenses water when squeezed during the painting process. The parts of the water brush are shown here and consist of the lid, a synthetic set of bristles at the tip, threads to attach the brush to the tank. The water tank, which rests above the brush tip. A pipette can be used to easily refill the tank when low on water. Let's go over some brush care guidelines to keep your paintbrushes in good condition. Never leave paintbrushes immersed in water. This will deform and ruin the bristles of your brush, causing the metal ferrule to rust, and the paint on the handle to crack and flake off. Eventually, the glue in the ferrule may loosen and the hairs can detach or the handle may become wobbly. Never pull stray bristles or hairs. This may loosen the bristles in the ferrule. If necessary, cut strays with a razor or sharp scissors close to the ferrule. Children should have adult supervision. At a minimum, always rinse paintbrushes thoroughly after painting sessions. For a deeper cleanse and to remove residual paint, use an unscented, mild bar soap with cool water. Apply soap to the bristles by gently swiping on the soap bar, then swirl the brush in your hand. Use gentle strokes, going with the grain of the bristles or circular motions, or stroke with the natural direction of the hairs, to prevent damage. Continue this process until no soap remains on the brush. Ensure no paint or soap residue is left in the bristles, as over time the soap may damage them. To dry, lay paintbrushes flat on absorbent paper or in a horizontal brush holder. An alternative is to hang brushes vertically with the tip pointing downward, so the water runs off. After drying, many artists store their brushes vertically, tip pointing upward. Elevate your watercolor practice with comprehensive watercolor, an interactive guide for learning to paint with watercolor. It offers clear instructions, hands-on exercises, a free product guide, and over 200 instructional videos. This book makes it easier than ever to learn, practice, and master the art of watercolor painting. To learn more, check out Comprehensive Watercolor. The links to purchase are in the description below. The Ultimate Watercolor Product Guide covers virtually all the gear a watercolorist needs to begin a lifelong journey of watercolor painting and includes recommendations for gear like equipment, materials, supplies, tools, mixed media and more. This free guide accompanies the book, Comprehensive Watercolor, an interactive guide for learning to paint with watercolor. Download your free copy of the Ultimate Watercolor Product Guide today by clicking the link located in the video description below or visiting mandikins.com. Thank you for watching. Tap the archer to subscribe and the bell to be notified when I post new content. To continue your watercolor journey, click a video from one of the playlists above.